What's up guys, welcome back to another YouTube video, and on today's video I want to talk about something that's been a huge problem in world football for the longest time, but only seems to be becoming more prominent with the advancement of technology and social media. There is a huge refereeing problem in football, and contrary to popular beliefs, this isn't a new problem. This has been a problem for a while now, but with the progression and advancement of social media platforms over the years, it has made an already existing problem become more glaring. I mean, does anyone remember the horrendous tackle on Xabi Alonso by Nigel de Jong where he only got a yellow card? And then Miles Lewis Skelly gets a straight red card for this tackle. What about Romero's tackle on Mbappe, where he's jumped into the tackle, studs high, from behind, had zero intentions of winning the ball, and he only receives a yellow card from the referee, but then Kaka gets a red card for this dangerous tackle against Ivory Coast in the World Cup. And who can forget the infamous Lampard's disallowed goal against Germany in the World Cup, where everyone and their mother and even Stevie Wonder clearly saw the ball cross the line by at least 3 feet, and the ref decides nah, not a goal. What about Van Persie's red card against Barcelona? And pretty much every decision in the Chelsea vs Barcelona match in the Champions League semi-final. I could keep going. In fact, I could make a whole video just showing the worst refereeing decisions in football history, but that's not the point of this video. The point I'm trying to drive home is that referees did not become poor overnight. They've always been quite poor. Excluding a few elite referees, the majority of referees' careers are rifled with poor decisions from time to time. Now, the big things with a lot of football fans is when the decision goes for your team, unless it's a blatant error by the referee that's so obviously wrong, most of us will usually find some sort of justification for the decision because in this particular instance, the decision has benefited our team. But when the decision goes against our team, we all get up in arms and voice our disapproval of the refs, calling them all sorts of names and calling them out on how poor they are. And there may be some element of truth to that. Now, it's very hard to prove that there is corruption in football, and all the evidence that I've heard so far is purely circumstantial at best. Now, maybe there is evidence that some teams are slightly more favored than others, especially when it comes to big refereeing decisions that have an impact on the game. I mean, it's not a completely unreasonable assumption. Most of us have some sort of subconscious bias, whether we admit it or not, and referees at the end of the day are only human. So while they may think that they are being completely impartial in a situation, they may not even be completely aware of their bias because it is, as described, subconscious. Now, before I get into what I believe the problem is, I want to play devil's advocate for a second. I played football for many years at an amateur level, or as some people may call it, Sunday League. And me, myself, have been on the end of many poor refereeing decisions. For example, the refs always seem to think that whenever I get fouled, it's not a foul because the person committing the foul on me is much smaller than me, therefore they are unable to foul me. So a lot of times I don't get the decision because the referee thinks I'm bigger than the other player, therefore it couldn't possibly be a foul. But as we all know, that's not how football works. A foul is a foul regardless of the size of the player that commits the foul. And because of this, I always hated referees because I just always assumed that they were poor at their jobs. It wasn't until last year when I refereed a football tournament for the first time that I realized just how difficult the job of a referee is. For one, I only get one chance to view any incident that happens, and from that one view, I have to make a decision that could impact the game one way or the other. And while you're trying to decide what decision to make, the game is still going on, so you're trying to keep your eye on, the rest of the game, just to make sure that you don't miss anything else. Now, it's all well and good when it's a very straightforward decision, but there's a lot of situations where the decision isn't so straightforward. Like when there's a ricochet between two players and you're trying to decide which way the throw-in is, or if there was enough contact in a tackle to warrant a foul. And even though the level of competition was very low and the pace of the game was much slower, it was still quite difficult to get every single decision right because there's just so much happening at once and the game is happening so quick that it's very easy to miss something small. And in a game of football, there's many decisions like this that a referee has to make constantly throughout the match. And at the end of the day, no matter how fair I thought I was trying to be, whether you try to let the game flow to avoid too many stoppages, or you call every foul no matter how big or small, at the end of the day you are hated by both teams because both teams think that you are making decisions against them. And that's just human nature. When we get the rub of the green, we tend not to complain because things are going well for us until it feels like the decisions are going against us, then we start to notice it a lot more. And for the longest time, this is basically what referees had to deal with at the highest level of the game. Because let's try to remember that for the longest time, there was no video assistant referee. All the referee had was himself and two linesmen, and from this perspective, they have to make a decision and they had to be able to make the correct decisions for corners, throw-ins, penalties, fouls, and offsides. And they only really get one look at the play, and whatever angle they get is what they get. So if they make the wrong decision, there's no way for them to rectify the mistake, which is completely different to how we see the game from home because we get so many different angles and we get instant replays. So we tend to forget that the refs on the pitch don't have this benefit. They get one chance to look at what happened and then they have to make a microsecond decision based on that. So as you can see, it's understandable and it's easy to see why they can get decisions wrong so many times. Then a big change happened and football started to follow the lead of other sports by gradually introducing technology into the game to assist the on-field referees with major decisions. Three of the major technologies that was introduced include goal line technology, which uses a network of cameras in real time to help determine if the ball has crossed the line. And then there was the semi-automated offside technology, which again uses a host of cameras to determine the position of each player and the ball. This information is then relayed to the match officials and it's used to help the ref determine if a player is in an offside position or not. And the biggest introduction is VAR or VAR, which stands for Video Assistant Referee. VAR is primarily used to evaluate goals, penalty decisions, red cards, and mistaken identity in awarding a card. The match officials will usually review a decision while the match continues, and if they decide that the referee has missed a decision, they notify the referee who brings the game to a halt. The referee then goes to a monitor that's on the sideline and he uses it to rewatch the incident. And he uses it to rewatch the incident from multiple angles before making a final decision whether to stick to his initial decision or to overrule his decision. Now, when VAR was first introduced, there was a lot of excitement from most football fans and football affiliated individuals as they saw this as a real turning point in what is considered to be the biggest sport in the world. Many saw this as a change that will finally eliminate or at the very least substantially reduce the amount of poor decisions made by referees and to make the game more fair for all teams, big or small. And how naive we all were at the time. Ever since the introduction of VAR, it seems that nothing has really changed, and instead of eliminating the poor decisions and mistakes of the match officials, it has only served to help highlight the issues in the game of football. The issues mainly being with the rules and how they are enforced on a game-by-game basis. Whereas before, if a referee got the on-field decision wrong, we all agreed that the decision was wrong, we mourn about it at the pub for a bit with some mates, and we move on until the next massive blunder. But now, not only do referees still get major decisions wrong even with the help of VAR, the game is stopped for multiple minutes just to review the smallest infractions. Players are forced to wait sometimes multiple minutes just to find out if the goal they just scored is actually a goal or not. And then you have sometimes when a decision doesn't even go to VAR, when a blatant offense has been committed. Clear and obvious decisions seem to be missed on multiple occasions, while VAR will spend almost 10 minutes to rule out a goal for the smallest error or cancel a goal for being offside because the attacking player was ahead by a toenail. And it's the general consensus that this was not the reason that VAR was introduced in the first place. In fact, the introduction of VAR seems to have created a whole new set of problems instead of fixing the existing problems that we had. So the question then is why? Why are there still so many controversies and poor decisions and VAR discussions, even though it was supposed to solve all our problems? Well, here's a quick test that we can use to see what the problem is. I want you all to watch this video and I want you guys to tell me if you think this is a foul or not. And if you do think it's a foul, do you think it's a foul worthy of a card? Leave a comment and let me know what you think. In my opinion, this video I think perfectly illustrates what I think the problem is in football. And I think it's something that would even split the opinions of fans. The issue, as I perceive, really boils down to two things. One is that too many rules in football, especially when it comes to what constitutes a foul, are simply not clearly defined enough. And a lot of it is actually up for interpretation. And even more so, a lot of fans are actually guilty of this whether we realize it or not. How many times have you heard a football fan complaining about how soft football has gone and how soft players are nowadays? And now they go down rolling from the smallest touch, which I actually agree with, until it's a player from their team going down due to a similar tackle. And the referee that day decides that there was not enough contact in the tackle to constitute a foul. And then those same fans go on a rant about how the referee never gives them any decisions and how the referee is against their team. Those same fans that complain that footballs are too soft and go down for the slightest tackles are now the same fans that are complaining that they never get any decisions and the referee is always against their teams. They claim that decisions are always going against their team, but have they ever stopped and considered that maybe it's not that the decision is going against your team, but it's just this particular ref's interpretation of what is considered a foul or not. It is entirely up to a referee how loosely or how harshly he wants to referee the game. And even then, professional football players, ones that have played the game at the highest level, you would find even them disagreeing on what is a foul or not. And the fans certainly disagree all the time about what is a foul or not. So how can a referee ever be 100% right when even we don't always agree on what's a foul and what is not? It seems that no matter what decision the referee makes, there will always be someone that agrees and there will always be someone that disagrees. The second biggest issue, however, is the complete lack of consistency in decisions. And this ties back into the first point about how different referees perceive the game, which affects the decisions that they make. The truth is that it doesn't matter if the fans or the managers think that something is a foul or not. The important thing is that they can all collectively look at any other match and they can say, you know what, the decisions are consistent for every team in every match. This is what I really think causes most fans to be upset, because almost every week you can pick out games where a decision was given as a foul or a penalty, and then the following week the same decision isn't given as a foul or penalty. And when it happens against your team, it can make you feel like the decisions are going against your team. While I do understand that it is impossible to determine to a T every single scenario that should constitute a foul, I really do think there needs to be a review and an update of the rules that gives clearer instructions to referees on what should be considered as a foul so that they can make better on-field decisions. For example, how many times has a player committed a foul outside the box and a free kick is given, but if the same foul is committed inside the box, the referee decides all of a sudden that there isn't enough contact to give a penalty? Why should the area of a field where a foul is committed determine whether or not something is a foul? Another example is on corner kicks, when the defending player proceeds to grab the attacking player's shirt, pulling him and impeding him from being able to challenge for the ball. 9 out of 10 times, the referee nor VAR even gives a foul or even checks to see if it's a foul. And again, if this happens anywhere else on the pitch that's not the penalty box, the referee will give a foul 9 out of 10 times. So again, I ask, why should the area of the field where the foul is committed determine whether or not something is a foul? Referees also rarely give any sort of warning to players who are caught simulating. How many times have we seen a player pretend to get hit in the face when he hasn't even been touched in an attempt to get the opposition player sent off? There are so many examples of rules in football being applied in ways that don't make the game any fairer or more consistent. And unfortunately, VAR is just a plaster over the cracks. I think the only way to fix the refereeing issues in football is for all refs to be more consistent with their on-field decisions all over the world. And this should be backed by way more concise rules on what should be considered a foul and how much contact a player needs to make with the opposition for a foul to be given. If a shirt pull is a foul, then it should always be a foul, regardless of the situation that the foul is committed. There shouldn't be a difference between a foul committed outside the box and one committed inside the box. Also, instead of VAR reviewing every single decision, I think the technology should be provided to every manager and every team's technical staff. This would allow them to review the decisions themselves, and if they believe that the referee has missed a call, they can challenge the referee with a limit of 3 challenges per game. And if a call is unsuccessful, they lose a challenge, and if a call is successful, they retain that challenge. This could also potentially add some tactical elements to the game, as teams can decide when it is most impactful to use one of their challenges. And if a player is caught simulating, it impacts their team directly, because due to their actions, it causes their team to potentially lose a challenge. This should also help the game flow so much better, as there wouldn't be a VAR check for every single thing that happens, only for what the teams themselves raise attention to. Rules for penalties also need to be so much clearer, and I would suggest it should be the same as free kicks. If a tackle is bad enough to be a free kick outside the box, and if the same tackle happens inside the box, then it should be a penalty. So either we need to increase the threshold for what is considered a free kick, or we need to decrease the threshold for what is considered a penalty. Now, while I don't think these changes will completely eliminate incorrect decisions, as I don't think this will ever be possible as long as humans are making the decisions, they should at least help reduce the amount of controversy that we see on a weekly basis. Giving each team the autonomy to challenge their own VAR decisions, they should at least help reduce the amount of controversies and poor decisions. And by giving each team the autonomy to challenge and call their own VAR reviews, and penalizing players that simulate or react in a way that doesn't match the foul that was committed on them, this can also mean that teams start to discipline their own players for simulation, as it negatively impacts the team. So these are my thoughts on the situation, on what's wrong with referees in football and how it can be improved. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Leave a comment if you agree or disagree, or if there's anything that I missed. Thank you very much for watching. Peace.